Are you getting hung up by slow chord changes on the guitar? It doesn't matter if you're playing acoustic or electric. This is a problem that plagues beginner guitar players the world over. How do you get past it? How do you get to where your chord changes are fast and they're smooth? Today, I'm gonna give you one thing that you can do that is going to help you out, because this is the number one mistake that beginner guitar players make that slow down their chord changes every single day. So today we're gonna dive into how you can fix that so that your chord changes are gonna sound nice, they're gonna sound smooth, and it's gonna be a lot faster for you. Now, this problem actually comes out of beginners not knowing what to do, especially if you've been teaching yourself. If you've been doing this on your own, this is a very common thing, unless you've had a guitar teacher say, hey, don't do it this way. It's very easy for people to do this. So it's not your fault, but we want to fix it so that your chord changes are gonna be a lot smoother and a lot faster. Now, it's born out of how we learn chords. Now, when I show students a chord diagram, I tell them, take it one finger at a time when you're first learning that chord, okay? So for example, if we have a G chord, on that G chord, you might go, okay, on the first string, I'm gonna put my third finger on the first string, third fret, right? And then my second string is open, and my third string is open, my fourth string is open, then I want my first finger on the second fret of my fifth string, and then I want my second finger on the third fret of my sixth string. And then, if that all sounds good and my fingers aren't touching other strings, we have a beautiful G chord. Right? That's just how it goes. That's how we normally learn chords, but here's the problem. That's not how you play a chord. If you play a chord one finger at a time, this is automatically going to drag out your chord changes. So we have to get out of the habit of using one finger at a time when we are making chords. It's just that simple. If you can get out of the habit of using one finger at a time when you're making chords, it's automatically going to speed up your playing a whole lot. So let's look at how to do that. Let's take that G chord, for example. And normally when people are playing that G chord and they are going to change to it, they would stop and they go, okay, second finger, first finger, third finger, right? We don't want that. That sounds sloppy. It's not fast. So here's what you're gonna do. We have to get to the point to where we go to that G chord and we just change and we put all three fingers down at the same time. Now, how do you get used to that? Here's what you're gonna do. Make the G chord first, okay? So you're going to make your G chord just like you normally would. I don't care if you do it one finger at a time right now just to get it there, but once your fingers are on that G chord, leave your fingers on that G chord. Do not take them off the guitar again, okay? Here's what you're gonna do. You are going to squeeze your fingers all at the same time. All three fingers all at once. Squeeze and then relax them and don't let them leave the string. And then you're gonna squeeze and then relax. And then squeeze and relax. And the whole time, your focus is on, am I squeezing all three fingers at once? And am I relaxing all three fingers at once? If you are doing that, that is what's going to make this work. Because if you get used to doing it one finger at a time, you start building a connection in your brain to do your chords one finger at a time. And we want to get over that. So the way that we're going to do that is by doing them all your fingers at once and squeezing all at once, relaxing all at once. Squeezing all at once, relaxing all at once. And doing that a number of times. Every time you do that, it's a new connection to your brain. You're reinforcing that connection in your brain, okay? So I want you to do that. I want you to squeeze and relax 50 times. Do not worry about speed. Although 50 times should take somewhere around 1 minute. So if you do that, you squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax. Don't let your fingers leave the strings when you relax. Just squeeze, relax, fingers on the strings. Squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax. About one of these every second. This is not squeeze, 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 squeeze. Okay, don't rush. Squeeze, relax. We want to get the repetition in and build that connection in the brain. So make sure you're squeezing good and relaxing all your fingers at once. Okay, now, once you've done 50 times, which I've talked long enough that you should have by now, what you're going to do is you're going to do it again, but now you're going to squeeze, and then you're going to relax and just barely let your fingers come off the strings, okay, barely. Like a hair's width, I can still barely feel the string with my fingertips, and then you squeeze from there again. And then you barely take your fingers off, and then squeeze from there. Again, make sure that you're doing this with all 3 fingers at once. If you're doing this, this is going to really build a connection in your brain that this chord is all 3 of these fingers at the same time in this position. That's what we want, not this one at a time business, okay? Now, once you've done the second round of this 50 times where your fingers are barely leaving the strings when you come off to relax, we're gonna do it again. You're gonna squeeze all 3 fingers at once. And then you are going to take your fingers off the strings about 1/4 of an inch. I don't know how far that is in millimeters. You figure it out, okay? And then squeeze from there. And then take your fingers off 1/4 of an inch and then squeeze. And again, when your fingers come off the strings, leave them over the same string that they're playing and make sure that they stay in the shape of the chord when you're off the strings. And then you squeeze directly from there and then relax and then squeeze and then relax and then squeeze and then relax, okay? If you can do that 50 times, it should take about a minute. Now, this is round 3 of this, and we're gonna do a total of like 6 of these rounds, okay? Now, here's the cool thing. Each round takes about a minute, okay? So as you're doing this, you can take 6 minutes, and this is really going to help you do this. And remember, the point of this is to speed up your chord changes, because if you can make your chords by getting all your fingers in place at the same time rather than going 1 finger at a time, then it's going to make your changes a whole lot faster because you're not waiting for each finger to find its place individually. All your fingers go down at the same time. Let's do round 4, but now I'm going to use a C chord just to show you what that looks like, because you can do this with any chord, and it doesn't have to be an open chord. Sometimes I will get a funky chord in a song that I'm not familiar with, and so I do this same process to get really familiar to that chord, and that way I can change and have all my fingers go at once rather than having to worry about doing it one at a time. That way you can learn any chord in only a few minutes. It's awesome. So for round 4, let's do this with a C chord. And C chord is great because a lot of people will do first finger, second finger, third finger for this, and then make sure it's good. And so with round 4, we're going to have your fingers in position, and I'm going to squeeze, and then when I relax, I want to come off about 1/2 inch. Again, leave your fingers over the strings and make sure that when you squeeze all 3 fingers at once. You don't go one at a time. You got to squeeze all 3 fingers at once, and then relax, and then squeeze, 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 right? Again, all 3 fingers come off the strings about 1/2 inch at the same time. Keep them over the strings and keep them in the shape of the chord. Then squeeze all of them at the same time. And once you do that 50 times, now we've done that chord 200 times. Now here's why this is great for you. In a matter of like 4 minutes so far, we've played this chord 200 times. But if you were just playing chord progressions or playing songs doing this, it would take you a lot longer to get 200 repetitions of one chord in, right? So this really shortens the window of time that it takes to learn a new chord and get used to using all your fingers at the same time for that chord. Now let's do round 5. We're going to take that same chord and you're going to squeeze. And now when you relax all 3 fingers or all 4 fingers, however many fingers you're using for this chord, you're going to come off about 1 inch off the strings, and then squeeze, and then come off about 1 inch, and then squeeze and come off about 1 inch. Now, all 3 fingers at the same time. That's the big thing, okay? And then you're going to do this 50 times, okay? Now, the round 6 that you can do after this is that you squeeze your chord, all your fingers for that chord at the same time. And when you relax, I want you to leave your thumb on the neck and open your hand all the way, okay? Like this. And then squeeze from there, and then open your hand, and then squeeze from there, and open your hand, and squeeze from there, and open your hand. If you do that 50 times, all 6 rounds put together, we've played that chord about 300 times. And if you just do it straight, it takes about 6 minutes. Now, when I have beginners come in who've been teaching themselves, they go to learn a new chord, and it literally takes weeks to get a new chord down, because either you're just playing chord progressions or you're just trying to play a song with it. And to get that amount of repetitions and to really get to know that chord and be able to change to it quickly, and to do it with all your fingers at one time instead of going 1 finger at a time, that takes a long time. If you take just a few minutes and you do these rounds of squeezing the chord and relaxing and letting your fingers get away further as you relax, That's going to help you overcome this #1 mistake that slows beginner guitar players' chord changes down by doing their chords one finger at a time. Okay. The biggest thing is going to be making sure that you're squeezing all your fingers at once. And doing this exercise is going to allow you to get used to that and build that connection in your brain so that you make those chords with all your fingers at the same time rather than doing it one at a time. That's going to speed up your changes. Now, like I said, though, you can do this with any chord. It doesn't have to be an open chord. It could be bar chords. It could be jazz chords. It could be whatever chord you need to learn or whatever chord is giving you trouble. Go do this and make sure that you're doing this. But even if you're having trouble with slow chord changes because you're going one finger at a time, make sure you do this to build the repetition in your muscle memory, in your brain-hand connection, so that you can do that chord with all your fingers at the same time rather than going one at a time, okay? That's going to make your life so much easier. It's going to make your chord changes so much faster, and that is going to help you play better and sound like a rock star, which is what we all want, right? Now, if you found this video helpful, I have another gift for you at my website. If you go to simpleguitar.com/top 10, I have a guide there for you called the top 10 things to learn on guitar first. And it's 10 things that are going to give you a lot of bang for your buck with your playing so that you can get up and playing real music a lot faster. So go get that guide. It's yours for free. It's my gift to you for watching today's video. And thanks for watching, by the way. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you watching and subscribing and all that fun stuff. So go get that guide, top 10 things to learn on guitar first, simpleguitar.com/top 10, and I will catch you in the next video.